Go ahead, tell me the questions you have to ask.
Okay, I guess we're live, everybody. Even though Mr. Stanboli here, the Superbike genius, is reading a magazine. What
Well,
the
it's
fuck are you reading this time, man?
Aquapublic's lifestyle magazine, man. It's really cool. Look,
Oh, well, that's perfect.
I mean, this is like one of the few magazines I read. Like, I definitely don't read that other magazine that's been around for a long time.
So, we were just at we were at the first, I guess you could say the late. What do you say? The late postseason test.
Yeah, because Jake was getting surgery and Cam was getting half the bones ripped out of his arm.
Well, he said he was deleting unnecessary body parts.
Yeah, I mean, he
Or
wanted
wait,
to get lighter, so I figured
yeah,
just take
yeah,
extra excess bones you don't use.
yeah. Well, he had to get rid of his limp wrist, right? So he's, now he's like full on all the
He's
time
more
doing.
limp wrist, right?
Well, he's not
Oh
limp
yeah,
anymore.
limp
He's
that
like,
way.
yeah,
Okay, whatever. I don't know. I'm not with the limp crowd.
yeah, man. So everybody's having surgery and stuff, and it kind of put a damper on your normal test schedule. So,
Yeah,
um, what
normally
what
we
what was the
normally
goal of
do
the postseason
but
test? Wrap that up. Like, what's the goal of the postseason tests typically?
well, typically you would go out and you would nail by that time you nailed your basic setup, right? And if you go to a new track or you go back to a track and test it all winter long before you start doing the nationals, you try to figure out, have you gone forward? How much forward have you gone? And the areas you try to start nailing the areas you want to improve for the next season.
Right.
But through the season, we had a pretty good idea what we want to do with the bikes to improve them. And but we wanted to still follow through with the process and do a little postseason test, especially since Cam, I don't think ridden a Superbike since what, after Laguna? It's like
Laguna,
6 months.
yeah,
So that's a long time to be off a motorcycle. So we
yeah.
figured we'll go out for this test, spend a couple days, and see where our bikes are, see where the riders are, see how their wrists are doing. Both of them had surgery,
Yeah.
and Jake had that nerve that nerve that was bothering him. His hand was going numb, and so he had that fixed. And then obviously Cam had those bones removed from his wrist, so he can get the dead bone out.
Yeah, he told me, man, and it looked gnarly. Like that whole row is just gone now. Like his hand looks super weird now, but he went
Yeah.
fast.
Plus, we worked pretty closely with Mithos-USA on some 220-volt systems for our tire warmers.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're top of our list is when we get the racetrack, we'd have two 110 generators going, and it still wasn't enough to warm everything and the bikes.
Oh,
So we'd
okay.
always have to be real careful, and sometimes we, especially in qualifying, we might trip a breaker. We need a lot more amps. So what's the best way of doubling your capacity is go to 220. So we brought in he brought in some warmers that they had returned from Tech along with some new stuff, and those were two separate channel warmers with the rim heater and the tire heater separately. So now we can concentrate the temperature where we want it, and along with that, we built a new enclosure for
the tire-arium.
Yeah, so we can grow some wheels back in there. But anyway, so that enclosure, we had some issues too last year with wind. And so the cover we had before on our tire rack was you get a draft underneath it or something like that. So the tires on the bottom would heat different than the ones on top. So we were always conscious of how it went. So we built an enclosure that had a little more even temperature all the way across, top and bottom, and separated sectors and things like that. So we spent a little bit of time in the winter improving our equipment, since we weren't out testing. Yeah.
Well, that tire-arium, I mean, taking a look at it, I was like, I was amazed by the build quality of the thing. And, I was talking to Greg and I was like, hey, man, so what, you just like click add to cart on the Capit site,
Well, we built it here, but Greg says you can replicate it for like $1,500 or something like that,
Yeah.
along with warmers.
And wheels too, right?
Comes with it takes 16 wheels.
Okay.
Because we got rid of our tire racks inside the truck, so we made some room that way too. So it'll take 16 wheels, and it'll take all the warmers, and it'll heat it up with 2 generators. I think Greg might throw in the generators too for $1,500.
Yeah, but you got to enter a certain discount code or something.
Yeah,
right?
It's called Screw Greg. That's a discount code. I'll give you his home number so you can always call.
Yeah, just text him. Just text him. It'll be fine.
Did
Yeah,
I
add
say
to cart.
1,500? I think it was closer to like 15,000.
Yeah, dude. Super funny.
Yeah, just hashtag screw Greg.
Oh
But yeah,
man.
that thing worked out really, really well. It was pretty impressive. The tires heated up quick, and they were really stable. And we run TPMS on the bike, so you kind of see what happens. A bad warm up job on your tires will show up on the racetrack.
Oh really?
Yeah, it takes a bunch of laps to recover from it too, if you don't overshoot the pressure target. So it's been kind of the latest thing we worked on all last season was trying to get a stable tire on the racetrack.
So in the morning, the first day, you had me take the boys out in the car to show them which way the
Yeah,
track goes. And it seemed like they were just really concerned with, they weren't so concerned with the layout, really. They just wanted to make sure they knew which way the first corner was. They're like,
yeah,
okay, first corner's left. Perfect.
yeah, yeah. We went counterclockwise, which is what the guys at Podium Club recommended. And those guys were freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, they bent over backwards for us. The track's a really cool layout. The guys, everyone there liked it. It was, loved it really.
Yeah.
Cameron hadn't ridden for a while. He said he loved the place immediately, and so did Jake. And then Bobby was there with Roland Sands.
Yeah.
Last minute edition, and Bobby liked it too, which is like apparently that's kind of rare coming out of Bobby's mouth. So they actually like.
Yeah. Usually Bobby likes shitty bumpy tracks, right?
Like Brainerd or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bobby's like the Brainerd
track.
guy.
Like, no, I don't like it.
Yeah.
No, he was ecstatic, and the Roland and his boys were ecstatic, and yeah, that track, it's like a firing range with a track attached to it. It is Arizona, right?
I mean, you know what? I guess you could say the motorcycle guy at Podium Club, he scooped up myself and Roland Sands and took us out to this range not too far from the actual paddock.
Yeah.
You gotta do some dirt road navigation to get there. But we roll up and there's like a berm and a table set up with weapons sitting there, ready to rock and roll. And I was
Out in
like,
the middle of the desert.
what? So, we got to go and plink off some rounds, and it was a good time, man. Like we all looked like heroes. He had those things sighted in perfect. So
yeah, a little 223 going down range. That's never a bad time.
yeah, there was a couple of different 9mm and then 1.556. Yep.
Yeah, 556, 223, whatever. Almost
Same thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's funny. They're a little bit different though.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit different than a 556, but not
right.
Not
like not enough to write home to mom about.
No.
Right. So it was pretty neat though. I mean, it kind of curbed being the computer guy and going all the way to the racetrack and not riding.
Yeah, yeah. We gave you something else to do, right?
Perfect.
Like your day job.
Hey, I was doing my day job. I did some conference call stuff and yeah,
Fix some stuff.
Fix a few things here and there.
Yeah. Too bad you didn't do your day your side job to start properly.
Oh, shut your, yeah, okay.
We didn't have timing and scoring, right, for the first session.
You're calling me out on it. You had timing and scoring. However,
you're the IT guy.
All I did was plug into their shit and had it up and running, and we were getting times. The only thing was,
yeah, the bikes didn't know where they were.
Yeah, your bike's first time you go by, it's your bike's lost and scrapped.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I got a real competent guy, Marshall, who can actually set the distances off of Google Earth.
There you go. Yeah.
So the bikes actually kind of knew where they were.
Right. Yeah. I earned that, dude. Like I just ran in, grabbed our stuff, plugged it in, turned it on, boom, done. Like I didn't even do anything with the computer. I literally just connected to ours and good.
Done.
Yeah. So now we know. And that's the more you know.
What did I call you? You're fucking lazy.
Yeah, you called me something, but yeah, lazy was included in what you called
included somewhere in there. So
like I was like, shit, dude, Richard's gonna totally give me the one-way conversation.
It was about one sentence worth.
And the thing is, like, you were giving me that one-way conversation when you already had to babysit a couple of three new guys. So I was like,
yeah, we had a little change up in crew, which is all good. Sometimes change is good. Yeah, Canfield, he took a hiatus, I think by the end of the season, he was like Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon. You know, I'm getting too
He's
old.
like, I'm too old for this shit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
that was him 100%. You know, he kept.
Yeah.
He's like, he called me. I'm in. All right, send me the contract. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm working on the contract. He calls me back on December 24th, like Christmas Eve. He's like, I'm out.
Yeah. He had a back thing or something, right?
His dad reached. I get it. His dad reached 100, and he wanted to spend some more time with him, or he lied to me about all that stuff. But yeah, he had some back issues he wants to get taken care of, and no, I don't think he's lying about anything. But he's a great guy. I wish we had him for the season, but it is what it is.
And then Will had some stuff too, right? He had some family stuff.
Yeah, they all kind of piled on all at once.
Yeah. Isn't that how it
all
always
good,
goes?
You know, I mean, if the most important thing with, I mean, I said 3 things to the guys that we brought on board is the 3 things I don't want on a team. That's no assholes, no smokers, and no woke.
No woke. Exactly. If you're woke, that's like if it says they them on the resume, that's automatic.
No, they're out. Sorry, no corporate they thems here. We're motorcycle racers.
Right. Yeah, this sport's pretty conservative, you know. I mean, it's like, you know,
maybe, you know.
I mean, the effort that you put in is, you know, your results are a direct.
Well, I mean, I think any competitive sport where one guy wins and there's a whole bunch of losers.
Yeah,
I think that tends to be fairly conservative, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, like we don't really want a bunch of trophies. All of these series, they seem to kind of want to go that way.
Right.
You know, oh, let's make everything the same, and oh, that crew's too smart, so we need to dumb them down, and we need everyone to ride around like a parade.
Well, these guys are spending too much money. Everything gotta go back to stock.
Bordering woke nonsense. Go woke, go broke. That's what I tell the series.
Yeah, that's true. You know, since we've been out too, like, you know, I got my trailer burglarized and stuff, and I got all my tools, but thanks to Ricky Bobby, I got a whole bunch of Boxos.
Do they sell those at Harbor Freight?
Oh, shut your whore mouth.
I'm gonna punch you in the face when I see you. We use Snap-on. And they don't even sponsor us.
Well, you guys use Snap-on because you guys use tools for a living. I'm the dum-dum that can barely like take off my own wheels. Like, you know, you've seen me use tools.
Yeah, you need a wrench to change your mind. I get it.
Something like that. Yeah. Usually it's over the back of the head, right? It's like a Swift. It's all in the wrist, I think, you know, like, yeah, right on. Okay. So what else were you guys testing other than just shaking the boys down?
Well, that again, that's when, you know, when I worked with Kawasaki, there was this team manager, Mike Preston. He said, I said, dude, why are we going to Fontana 6 frickin' times? You know, like it seemed like every other week we were going to Fontana. He goes, it's not always for just for bike development. I go, what are we going to develop there? You know, and it's like, It's not about bike development. It's keeping the guys, the riders, one with a motorcycle. It's keeping the mechanics hands on the motorcycles. They get better and better at their job. So when they get the nationals, it's basically like another test for us. And it always seems that way. We'll do five or so tests before the season even starts. And by the time we get to the first round, everything is, you know, when you test, you're on track like every half hour.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you're busy the whole day. And you get the nationals, it's like a vacation. You get on 2 or 3 times a day max, and you have hours in between. It's super chill at the races. If you're switched on, you know what you're doing.
Right.
You know, you have all your stuff ready. So, I mean, that's part of racing, is racing at the shop as well. Race all winter long, race before you get to the track, race when you get to the racetrack, race home and do it all over again.
Yeah.
You know, so that was one of the main things too. That's why we like to have a November and possibly like October, November style test, like a couple in there, but we didn't get a chance to do that. So no one had their hands on the bikes. And then we had, you know, Robbie Jensen came on board. He was with Westby last year.
Also known as Not Bob or No Bob, right?
Yeah. So Robbie, you know, I've been calling him Robbie. His name's Robert Jensen, and probably a lot of people know him from his racing.
Right.
He was like the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
He would have numerous motorcycles of his own builds. He would do all the maintenance for the most part, and he would go out and get tens of thousands of dollars every track that had contingency, and he'd pop them in the van and go to another place.
I hear he owned Brainerd for a while, you know?
I don't know.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
guess he was a Brainerd guy, I guess, and he would go and
Oh,
just murder people every round, you know?
yeah. I just remember him coming to a couple of nationals, but he definitely cleaned up at the club or regional level. He cleaned
Right.
up. So anyway, yeah, we took him back, took him on board from Westby. Westby folded, so that was opportunity there. So we snatched him up pretty quick, and he's a really good dude, hard worker. And I asked him, I said, "Do you like to be called Robbie? You like to be called Robert? Do you like to be called Rob?" He goes, "You can call me whatever you want, just don't call me Bob." So I start calling him No Bob.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, asking you to not call him Bob is like telling him to call you Bob,
Yeah, throw gasoline on the Bob.
right?
I
It's
call him
like,
No
does he
Bob
not
all day
realize
long.
that it's you? Like,
I call him No Bob all day long. So I think I'm gonna chill on that because
yeah.
I might get
He
under his skin one day. He might hit me with a wrench or something.
he looks like he could knock somebody out too. I was like, "Shit,
Yeah,
dude."
he's pretty serious,
Yeah,
but he's also got a good sense of humor. So it's all good. So definitely no smoker, no
yeah.
asshole, no woke
Yeah,
on that.
I had the
And then
video
we had
camera.
Evan from Evan Steel.
Yeah, you borrowed
You
him
know,
from,
he borrowed him. Well, he's an hour down the road, so it made a lot of
okay.
sense, because they're over there in Tucson.
Yeah,
Stop and yeah. So yeah, so he's a good dude and he's
yeah,
a good mechanic. I mean, he's pretty loyal to Melissa Paris, who's I think he's working on her team next year.
yeah.
And so yeah, if her team didn't exist, then we'd probably snatch him up too.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say he was on loan from Melissa's team, but he was kind of on loan from his own shop,
shop.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, he's a really good
ESP,
dude.
right?
Good sense of humor. I kept calling him Phil.
Dude, I called him Phil too,
Well, I mean, those guys
'cause I
fucking
fucking know
hard.
him and Phil.
Phil.
Yeah.
But then I told him, I said, I used to date this girl in high school. Her name was Evan with an I. I said, I have a hard time calling him Evan. He goes, no way. Somebody else is called Evan. I go, yeah, but with an I. His is EVAN and hers is EVIN. I said, yeah, I see you with that beard and those, all that stuff. I said, I have a hard time calling you Evan.
Yeah, you're
So I just
doing the
call him
math on it,
Phil.
it's not working out.
What's that?
I said you were doing the math on that, it wasn't adding up.
Yeah, just the visual didn't add up. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other guy.
Yeah, that other guy,
Yeah,
Eric.
I think he's
Eric
on.
Davis.
I think he's on here somewhere.
Probably somewhere in there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure but yeah, he did a good job. A little bit of fish out of water. He's only been, I think, doing the nationals for a couple seasons, but I think he's going to catch on pretty quick. I wanted to chat with him last couple days, but man, the shop's been super busy. We have a
Yeah,
new 5-axis CNC that came in, and the guys were here. The Haas guys were here setting it up the last couple of days, and so a little supervision there. They ate up some of my time, but yeah, so it's all good. Yeah, I got to chat with them and talk to them a bit and see if we can make this thing go forward.
right on, right
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I mean, the team seemed busy, man. You guys were always doing something. Every time I went over there, you guys were doing something.
Oh
Trying a
man,
lot of
that was
tires, a lot of tires.
yeah. Well, we tested tires for Dunlop, right?
Yeah,
So it was kind of a perfect fit because we didn't want to change a lot on the bikes since the riders were still kind of getting their groove back. And we had some new hands in there. So we didn't want to just start throwing a bunch of changes to the motorcycle. Oh, try this, try that, whatever. So the test plan was basically test the mechanics, test the riders, same motorcycles, and test some tires.
yeah,
So Dunlop kind of made out because they got a freebie test for their Japanese stuff that they had a guy from Japan give
yeah.
him a nickname too. So when I
Oh,
saw
yeah?
him, he had a Japanese name. I can't remember all the Japanese names. It was
Yeah.
something San, like a Suji San or something like that. And so I said, "You don't have an American nickname?" He goes, "Oh no." I said, "Okay, I'll call you Nick."
Nick, okay.
Nickname.
I
Yeah,
was gonna
something.
call him Steve, but
Yeah, so I think Romo was calling him Nick. So I don't know if they made that up at the moment or I made it up or whatever, but it's kind of funny at the end. Everyone's calling him Nick. Even Corn Dog's like, "Hey, yeah, I talked to Nick for a minute." I go, "That's not his name."
yeah, I'm getting asked, like, what kinda lap times that the boys were putting down, and we'll get to that in a little bit, Bearded
Yeah,
Gixxer. We'll get to that in a little bit, but,
let's just say we broke the track record by quite a bit.
by yeah, like, it quite a bit faster than, Bearded Gixxer may have been at the last CRA round last year, and,
Yeah.
you
Well, in
know
all fairness, I think if the Nationals came there, we'd be going another second faster than that.
oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
And quite frankly, Bobby was going faster than all the 600 guys at CRA too.
Bobby was moving on that thing.
Oh, dude.
That Indian. He
Did
was throwing
you
that thing around like a toy.
did you
And
catch
you know, it weighs 600 pounds.
did you catch the sound of that thing when he was barking the rear tire going in turn 1 every lap?
No, I was probably in
I
the
was like,
truck
what
doing
the
something.
hell? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah. It probably has a lot of engine braking.
something. Yeah. I mean, you could
Or he,
smell the
oh, you know
tires
what it
smoke.
was? I think he said he's got to use the crap out of the rear brake because the thing won't stop.
Yeah, he did. He
So
did
he's
say that.
barking the rear tire.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can talk about rear brakes and coefficient of friction and all that stuff in a minute.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I can give you some examples of when too much is too much.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm all right with that. But yeah, it's the pace was what it was, and the tires that you guys were testing, you said they were Japanese tires, and you can
Well,
kind of tell
more.
they were different because they were super shiny, like way shinier than the stuff that
Well,
we normally see.
the old school English tires that were those N-Tex we're getting from, I think back in the day that they were called UK tires.
Yeah,
And those things sometimes had a shiny mold. So the shiny mold's been around for a while, or whatever they do to make those things shiny. But yeah, the shiny tires have been around for a bit.
yeah,
We had them back in the day, and then they went back to dull tires and went to Buffalo tires. And honestly, I think the front tire we're using currently performs better than the Japanese fronts. They did have some rears that were pretty good. And then
right.
there was the tire that we started with, which was, we call it the 118. It has some other spec on it. I can't remember. It has the E and some numbers on it. That one was the best one. And that one they could possibly bring to Motor America. It was the same size as the tires that we're currently running.
Yeah,
That one was worth a lap time. It was consistent and it kept on going. As a matter of fact, Jake did a bunch of laps around the same 10th.
yeah,
And then afterwards, we took it off Jake's bike and put it on Cameron's bike. And he said it was still amazing after he
right.
said. So that one I think can do some damage around all the racetracks. We have one more we're going to take. They only gave us 2 of those, and Jake burned one up, and we'll try another one at Buttonwillow, a low grip track,
Okay.
and see if it performs the same, if it's got the same jump. But it was a significant jump, like a qualifier type jump, or
Really?
better.
Was that the tire? Like I was talking to Corn Dog.
We've used technically what they call qualifiers, R0s, and most of the time they're not worth anything.
Right.
Sometimes they're worth something, but a lot of times they're not worth anything.
Hmm.
But this one was worth something. I mean, both guys really liked it. So hopefully they'll bring it online soon. A lot of records to be smashed with that thing.
Well, I was talking to Corn Dog a little bit, and he was saying something about a tire that was like, does this make sense? Like U.S. construction of the tire with
Yeah.
Japanese rubber on it?
Yeah, Japanese compound. Yeah, that might have been that 118. I don't know exactly. Tony would be able to elaborate on it. I was just trying to keep the wheels on the cart going.
Yeah, and while we were there, the first day, Tony and I were talking about the Go Show stuff, and he was sharing some crazy stories, and then
Gobert passing away.
Yeah, and then the second day we were there, the news came out that Go Show had passed, and man, I tell you what, Tony had the best stories about Go Show, man.
Yeah, you
Like,
worked with him, right?
yeah, and I think he worked with him at both Yamaha and at Muzzy.
Yeah, you're right, because Tony was with
Yeah.
Muzzy in Oregon. I don't know if he was with him in the desert up here, high desert, but I thought he was with him in Oregon.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, no, he worked with him then. Guy was a bunch of talent, unfortunately, just a waste of life in the way he treated himself.
Yeah, I mean, especially after he stopped racing, right? After he stopped racing, he just spiraled,
Well, he was already spiraling.
Oh, I mean, he was legend though, right? He was like he was the champion of partying, right?
He showed up to New Hampshire, Loudon. Hadn't seen the track, showed up late, a day late. That was the Vance Hines Ducati team at the time.
Yeah.
Didn't ever look at the track, didn't play video games, didn't do anything. Probably hung over, hopped on the bike, and straight to qualifying, got pole.
Like the rumor has it that he showed up 5 minutes before qualifying.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
Smell
then
like something.
Yeah, and then he goes out and sets pole and breaks the lap record and wins.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude's life spiraled into shit for sure. But you hear about these guys that are like that, have a bunch of talent, mainly actors and stuff like that, that
Yeah.
that just go down the wrong path, and that's that. They can't
Yeah.
recover.
Yeah. So, I
Luckily,
mean,
I'm not rich or talented. I have to work hard at everything I do.
you're right here, man.
Yeah, whatever.
I have to work extra hard because I'm like not super smart either.
Yeah.
But talking to Tony, he had probably, if anybody runs into Tony, you got to have him do an impression of Go Show's mom because, dude, he's got the Aussie accent down perfect, and yeah, it was pretty great. So yeah, it was pretty sad hearing
How about
about the
Tony
Go Show.
Romo from Dunlop?
Yes,
Yeah,
Tony Romo from Dunlop.
yeah.
He's definitely got the Aussie accent down. Like Declan Van Rossum would be. He probably does a better Aussie than Declan does.
Well, Declan's basically an American.
Yeah, he's an American. His dad though. His dad's
Yeah, he's
proper
from
proper
Aussie.
Aussie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but his dad's a proper Aussie without the drinking problem, right?
So, but
Actually,
how
for
cool
them,
was the track, the weather and stuff over the track? Man, was it? Did we get luck out or what? It was
dude, we
perfect.
sure did. You
I
know,
mean, it was cold in the morning. It was really brisk. I hate the high desert, but I liked
yeah,
it when the sun came up.
yeah, yeah. When the sun came up, it was nice. But I mean, usually we're either fighting off weather in the early February tests, at Buttonwillow,
January, yeah.
or the tumbleweed bombs that we get.
Yeah.
So
But there was, I mean, it was zero rain, zero wind, and the track was pretty clean.
yeah,
And the grip was good, and we were able to get a lot of tire testing in, which was good for Dunlop, and
yeah,
will help us out in the long run as far as the type of rubber we're using.
yeah,
So I think we gave those guys some good feedback, and they can take it back to Japan, and then maybe get a better collaboration between Japan and the U.S. Who knows?
right.
Who knows what it'll lead to? But definitely a couple of those tires we got some good info off of, and those guys could use that info to make something better. We'll see.
Yeah. So, let's get back to the pace of the test. A bunch of questions here. There's some people saying that they thought that Gagne had turned to 27. He turned a few 27, or was it
A
just
lot
the?
of you going to talk about lap times?
Yeah, it was like what
I think
20?
there was a lot of 28 flats, 28 ones, stuff like that,
Yeah,
and they did different than 27s.
right, right.
I didn't look at all the lap times for the 2 days, but I
Yeah,
did see
I think
27 in there.
yeah, the 27.7 I think was
Yeah,
the
that's
fastest
right.
time. And Bearded Jix is pointing out that Wyatt Ferris set the record last year at CRA at a 29 something. So
Yeah, I heard that. And what's his name?
Bryce,
Prince. I think he was
yeah,
testing. I think he ran some of the Dunlop tires that we were on, or
yeah,
something like that. And I think he did some 29.3 or something like that, maybe.
something like that.
So
Yeah,
I think we're about a second and a half under whatever happened. But you would expect that.
yeah,
You would expect that. Like I said, I think if we went back and John Mabry, the track manager,
right.
he gave us a little bit of insight that they've been talking to Motor America about having a national there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that'd be really cool. If that happened, I said, what, next year or the year after? Because they still have some facility to put up, and they got a few things to
Yeah,
do. Like, I think they have to make the the paddock area bigger.
right.
They might have to extend it out into that rifle range.
I mean, they're still doing phases. I mean, where we drove, a lot of racetracks have the dirt parking, right? So they
Yeah,
had
yeah.
plenty
But
of that out there. But
no, flat. The concrete area was good. The asphalt area where
right.
the semi was, and all that was great. And the track's bitching. I think they need to get obviously some bathrooms and things like that going. And so they have some facility work to do, but I think that's coming. And man, that'd be really great if you do another national on the
Oh,
West
dude.
Coast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they used to do stuff in Arizona at what Firebird back in the day, right? That was like a go-kart track
Oh,
attached to a
Firebird
drag
was
strip.
awful. I raced Firebird, and it was awful. It's
Yeah.
just a little tiny track and with a long straightaway down the
Yeah.
drag.
Go-kart track attached to a drag strip. Like I said.
Yeah, a lot of zigzags on the other side of it, and
Right.
it wasn't great for a leader bike. without a doubt. If you had a little tiny bike, you'd be better, except for down that long straightaway. And the straightaway led into a fence. There was
Well,
no
naturally.
runoff. Yeah, so they put a
Well,
chicane.
back in the day, they didn't need runoff.
No, that was the
That's
same
back
thing.
when men were men,
Nobody would come down around that tower, you go straight into a fence, and they end up making that little parking lot turn before you get to the fence.
Right.
I mean, Firebrew, same thing. You'd come onto the staging lanes, you do a big carousel turn, and you'd head towards the wall where the drag strip was, and you'd point right at an unprotected wall.
Wow,
So you
man.
slide the rear tire all the way to the wall. They held an AMA National there, and Jamie James and those guys. It was crazy.
I think Predmar busted a leg there.
I don't know. I know Fred Merkel ended his career there.
Yeah.
He was riding the Yosh bike at the time. He crashed. I don't know if he got into one of the walls or not, but I think he broke his arm pretty bad, and that was the end of his career.
Yeah, I was signed up to Jason's dad's school in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And Jason was still instructing for his dad, and I guess at the weekend before, he crashed at Firebird and busted his leg, so he couldn't make the school. So why I remember that, I have no idea, because I have no memory of anything. But
yeah, you're definitely not Gregopedia, Greg White.
No. But I remembered that, so that's something, kind of, maybe, right?
Yeah, a couple of things we tried. We're going to go back on the 6th. We're going to try a new IMU. See that?
Yeah, that's that thing that Walker had the soldering iron out for, right?
I mean, they don't solder anything
or whatever it was. He had the big old, he's like he's got the magnifier.
Yeah, changing some of the CAN bus terminals around, but that deal there, this guy here has got 2 CAN buses, and it's got redundant sensors in it, and that's part of the new kit for Yamaha. It's been actually part of the kit for a couple of years now, and but we just our stuff was pretty reliable, so we didn't bother changing it. Now we're going to see if we can upgrade to this and we get a little more accurate lean angle and wheelie stuff, wheelie condition. And we had some new software we introduced to Yamaha Europe, used it all last year for World Superbike. And so we're going to give that a go and see if we can make heads or tails of the settings.
One of the things I noticed about your guys' bike, now that you're saying that, like, I don't know what you guys have changed electronically, but it used to be when the bikes would go down the straightaway, you'd hear it kind of cracking and popping and stuff, doing the electronic thing down the straight. And now you don't really hear that so much. The thing sounds like it's just like a solid vroom, if you will.
Yeah, it has a thing called TRM now, because before it used to be all cut or retard, right? And we used to use cut quite a bit. So you hear that popping and banging more.
Yeah.
And now they introduced TRM a couple of years ago, or last year, maybe a year before, I don't remember. Marshall could tell you exactly. And no, actually it was the year the Heron rode our bike. We started using a Brainerd that year, and so I was 22. And what it does is it flutters the butterfly. I could show you some of it, and that acts. Yeah, it just turns the butterfly back and forth to try to reduce torque and add torque. And if you listen to some of the old Formula One cars, you'll hear the guys like smacking the throttle sometimes in the middle of the corner. Nigel Mansell would do that. Yeah, off on the throttle. You're like, wow, that's not too smooth, but they were fighting for grip, and that's kind of what this thing does. So you don't really hear it because the throttle is kind of doing the action, and it's a lot less cut. We do have cut still, and so that's something like the riders can feel and hear. But for the most part, it's working the throttle plate on its own. So you'll see the guy will go full throttle, but in the data graph, you'll see a throttle plate moving, good 20-30%.
And does it doing it that way help with this mile an hour down the straight?
That came a little later with managing the wheelie control, some of the other cuts better.
Okay.
So we've been working on that, and the software they passed on to us has a little bit wheelie control parameters as well. So it gives you a little better options as far as when to have the wheelie control come on and how much to cut. Because all this stuff, I mean, electronics, a lot of times you're trying to bandage what the chassis guy was too lazy to fix. Right.
Right.
And sometimes the rider has to bandage what the electronics guy was too lazy to fix.
Oh,
Yeah. So you start with a bike there and try to make a really good chassis, and then you layer on top of that the rider aids,
right.
and then on top of that the rider gets a chance to go out and get used to it all.
Okay.
So yeah, give it full throttle. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. So that's part of the challenge of the rider mentally, because especially if they're out riding a bike that doesn't have any electronic aids at all.
Okay.
But what that also does is when you have these tools, I think it tightens up the racing. People think, oh well, it makes some people unfair advantage or whatever. But I think it tightens it up, because if you get rid of all the tools and the guys have to use all the normal tools they have, which is the throttle and the rear brake and things like that, it spreads the skill level even more. So the guys that have really high skills can excel, and the guys that are more, let's say talent, let's rephrase that.
Yeah.
The guys that have a lot of talent can excel straight away.
Yeah.
The guys that need some learned skill, takes them longer to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Whenever you get to a new racetrack or the first session, you'll see some guys just punch out real quick.
Yeah.
They get to it real quick, and the other guys that take all weekend long to get there.
Right.
Especially on some of the classes that don't have these types of rider aids,
Right.
or bikes that don't have the type of rider aids. I mean, most of the bikes come with them now anyway. Cars
Yeah.
come with all kinds of aids. All the bikes, the Beamer, the Ducati, all that stuff has it. It's all on the back end. But what they don't have is, a lot of them don't have sectoring. So sectoring means that you can the data guy can go in and adjust from corner to corner. You can tell it, okay, this corner is one sector, the next corner is another sector, that corner is another sector, and that's what Marshall does pretty much the whole time with that's his only job.
Yeah, he's in there, and he's in there squiggly lining. Yeah.
And work on the strategies, because it just makes it that much easier on our guys to get to that lap time. Right. And if you notice, like, how many guys have ridden our bikes now in 2018, right?
Several.
They've all been on the podium. I mean, they hop on, they get on the podium fairly quickly, with the exception of Hayes, who I'm sure he would be on the podium if he wasn't riding that 600 the same weekend.
Right.
I mean, it was a lot of work to expect that, both those classes. And if he would have gone any further in the season, instead of using JD, let's say we stuck with Hayes and he didn't have the 600, the R6.
Right.
I think he would be on the podium every weekend pretty much.
Right.
And how is that possible? Well, if you make the bike friendly, then almost the level of the rider gets leveled out between all the various riders we had and their style. Like JD hopped on our bike and he won in the wet or semi-wet, and he was on the podium in the dry. So all these things help riders of different caliber, different skill, different levels be somewhat equal. And I think some of the sanctioning bodies don't understand that.
Yeah.
I think we need people a bit smarter on the back end of the bike, and that'll help the series as far as competitiveness goes. If you make it, so I think of it the other way. If you make it all no rider aids like Moto 2, then only the guys are going to be at that top level, which there's a lot of them in Moto 2.
Right.
They're all very, very close in rider talent.
Right. In Moto America Superbike, it'd be maybe one or two guys at the front and everyone else battling for everything else, right?
Yeah. You take away a number of front runners.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think our series isn't quite switched on to get the bikes to where they were closer together.
Right.
But I don't think getting rid of if you took all the rider aids away from that BMW, it'd be unrideable.
Yeah.
And only so many people would be able to ride it, because they'd be pushing on the rear brake where it's necessary and not using it where it's not necessary, and using that for the torque control. But instead of, some people say, oh, I heard these two dummies from Motor America doing an interview, and they were talking about how Richard hates rear brakes.
Well, you hate the rear brake.
What's that?
You hate the rear brake. I mean, that's why you take the lever away. Duh.
Yeah, duh. Yeah, they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't have a freaking clue of what they're talking about. They don't know what I hate and don't hate.
Are you surprised?
Lies, and I hate misinformation. So that's what I really hate. And when people make up that kind of stuff, it's really weird. But whatever. There's two kinds of brakes on a bike. There's a friction brake, and then there's the engine brake. And MotoGP uses the engine brake a couple of ways. They use it with the throttle plate closing, and they use it with an exhaust valve, like a a Jake brake on a semi truck, right? So all that causes a torque in the engine, and that slows the wheel down.
Right.
We choose, because it's more reliable, to use more of the engine brake than the friction brake, which the rider can use, because the electronics are more reliable than the rider is. And the electronics, we can pinpoint exactly where we could apply the brake. Now, there are some areas where you can use the rear brake, and that's why we've gone to a finger brake and got rid of the foot brake altogether, because let's face it, if you were that precise with your foot, you'd be eating with your foot, you know? You'd be like a monkey. You'd be doing surgery with your foot.
I mean, that'd
But
be
you use your fingers for a reason, because they're super precise, right?
right.
So we prefer the finger brake, and we just hope our riders eventually get around to using it precisely, you know. But it's just logic, and that's why they use it in MotoGP and Moto2. Everyone's got a thumb or finger brake. They might use it in conjunction with a foot brake. You know, in Moto2, they don't really have much of the way of strategies. So those guys have to use the rear brake. If we're racing Moto2, we'd for sure be using the friction brake a lot, and we'd be working with the rider to make sure that he's applying it properly everywhere. But
Well,
we did see,
also in the right-hand corners, they have their foot off the inside of the bike anyway.
well, there's a couple things, right? So I watched an episode with Sylvain Gindley. He won he was in MotoGP. He was test rider for Suzuki. That's Gindley, and I don't know if I pronounced his name right. Some people call him Gintoli, you know.
Right.
But he does some episodes on MotoGP or World Superbike, why the riders do what they do, and one of them was on rear brake. I think everyone should watch that.
Yeah.
He talks about when and where to use the rear brake, why the riders use it. He talked about the leg dangle, which you can't use the rear brake if you got a foot brake and do a leg dangle at the same time.
Right.
You can do it for a minute before for a second or less than a few tenths of a second before you pull your foot off the peg to do the leg dangle. He talks about why the leg dangle is important. I mean, he goes into a lot of detail, which I was impressed by his presentation. You know, I think everyone needs to watch that.
You know what? I'll share a link to that in the YouTube
Yeah, I mean,
description later.
I don't even know the guy, but he made
Yeah.
sense to me, you know?
Right.
And he talks about when he used the rear brake on the MotoGP bike. And he talked about how some guys like to use the rear brake on acceleration. And to me, if your data guy is that lame to where you can't control the torque of your engine on acceleration, then maybe you should get a new data guy.
Oh, wow.
You know, because our data guy does a good job and he can control the torque of the acceleration. So we don't have to use the rear brake to slow the bike down on acceleration. And I mean, think about it logically, right? You're trying to go forward, at the same time you try to stop the bike. And there's a number of things that happen with that in the chain load. And I don't want to get into all the physics of the motorcycle.
Right.
There's a lot of things that aren't really great for traction when you're trying to stop the bike from accelerating with the rear brake. And that's one of the main reasons we try to use the rear brake in the proper areas. And using a finger brake allows you to use it in both directions.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of chatter on the internet.
Guys, Richard hates the rear brake. He took the brake off the bike, blah, blah, blah. They're morons. You know, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I mean, I just posted a link in the comments section to the video that you're talking about.
Yeah, he does another one on leg dangle, which is pretty good too. And he talks about how he changes the center of gravity of the bike by putting his leg out and behind him, and how it helps with his leverage on the MotoGP bike that's stopping so hard with the carbon brakes. It's kind of funny when some of the kids do it on the little bikes, but you know, it might help a little bit with some of the stuff he does. I mean, there's stuff like air braking. You know, you get your leg out there and it helps you stop with the wind, pushes back on your body a little bit, gives you a little better leverage. It's like balancing your foot. It's like trying to balance yourself on a foot and put your leg back. You'll mass a little further back, so it helps you with the amount of load on your hands. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Plus, it looks really cool on the internet.
Yeah, you know, but it's really hard to get riders to do it when they're hanging on for dear life by squeezing their knees against the tank.
Right.
You know, so they squash the tank and they can't get that leg out. You know, so it's a technique. I think it's not for everyone, but if you're trying to find that last little bit, you know, in MotoGP, everyone does it when they can, because they're looking for that little tiny fractions of a second in every corner, and that helps along with the rear brake use. They're looking for tiny little fractions, and then that Sylvain goes into how the MotoGP bike is different. as far as the amount of friction it can produce with the rear tire, where we don't have the same amount of grip.
Yeah.
So we don't have that same option. Like I say, if someone gets on and says, "Oh man, my bike is so powerful, I have to smash the rear brake when I'm going a straight line. They're gonna loop over backwards or it'll wheelie too much." Their data guy sucks.
Right.
That's all I gotta say. I
Dude,
think
you don't even have to have a
data guy get their job right.
You don't even have like if you're a club racer guy, I mean, dude, like the kit electronic stuff, you could make changes to make that so it calms it down, right?
Well, we talked about that when we were talking about your bike, right? The YEC electronics.
Right. And sorry, I'm a little sick still.
So all the torque control, the YEC electronics do. It's in every bike.
Right.
You have to get to the settings and fix it. The difference in World Superbike and MotoGP is they have sectoring. So we can control exactly how much force we can put on the rear tire going to every single corner.
Right.
Right. And then we can control from the initial throttle chop all the way to the apex. Now, sometimes there are situations where the track is changing conditions. Right. And we can't apply the same amount of force. Like, for instance, that weird race that we did in New Jersey, the second race, right? The track was pretty dry, but there was some big flooded patches. So you couldn't run slicks. You had to run reins. And the reins are squishy and moving around. JD used a lot of rear brake in that race with a finger brake. He liked it. And he used quite a bit of rear brake to control the bike on conditions where you would go over a patch of water. But if that track was perfectly smooth and dry, if it wasn't wheeling over that wheelie bump, he would probably hardly ever touch it. As a matter of fact, I have the data from it. He hardly touched it. And if he was using the brake quite a bit going over that little wheelie area, then Marshall would adjust the torque going over that wheelie area, or we'd add a little cut so you can keep it pinned and ride right over that thing, or be fairly smooth with throttle off, throttle on. So you wouldn't have to try to smash the rear brake to stop the motorcycle to get over that thing. Because every time you put in that amount of energy loss, it's hard to get it back. It takes a while for the bike to wind up again. So there's areas where you can use it. There's areas where you don't need it, and it depends on the type of motorcycle you're using. The motorcycle is fairly primitive, it doesn't have a lot of control, then you're gonna have to use it more often.
Yeah, and does it, like I was telling you earlier, I use the rear brake a ton when I'm two up.
Yeah, so if you put a passenger on your Superbike, you might have to use it a ton.
There you go.
Yeah.
New class, Motor America, 2-up Superbike.
That's coming after baggers.
Oh, 2-up baggers.
2-up baggers.
Yeah. That's the new 200, right?
Combined weight in case the person on the back is pretty heavy.
Well, you got to have the person to run into Buc-ee's at Daytona, grab the 12-pack of Coors.
I think they should have, a gas station stop. And the guy's got to run in, and he has to spend like, $24 exactly
on Diet Coors,
stuff in his bag, right? Fill up his tank. That'd be like the bagger endurance race.
Oh my God!
All the while, somebody's wiping the
giant windshield off.
Yes. Cleaning off the headlights.
Right, the headlight stickers. Yeah,
they do sound kind of cool though, like the engine drone, the 2-cylinder stuff.
It sounds like it spins up faster than it used to. I was telling Bobby
I think they're pretty strong. They're just heavy.
Yeah.
Really tall.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to that Cameron dude that's part of that team that
Cameron Brewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, I can't remember what the figure was.
Rollins Company.
But it was a lot. Like the power that they're making out of those things is pretty crazy.
Oh, I'm sure. They're big.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, 160 something.
I believe it. They sound like it. They look like they're moving. And Roland, I mean, I told Roland, I said, man, I haven't talked to you since you were on a 250, other than seeing you grow up. And I said, it's just amazing to me when he was in the parking lot in AMA National doing donuts on his pit bike, I go, that guy's gonna be the biggest loser ever. He's far from it, right?
Yeah. Oh man.
I told him that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Did you see the comment? Somebody said 2-up baggers. It's my new T-shirt.
Yes, 2-up bagger. You need one for track days.
Oh man. Like I have a shirt. I'll pull it up later, but Yeah, I've got a shirt that I'm kind of working on that we're gonna start selling maybe in the near future. And I don't know. I'll share it in a little bit. But let's get to some of the comments, man.
Yeah, answer some questions. We're yapping too much.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so a lot of lap time stuff. Um, let's see
Yeah,
here.
lap time stuff. Cameron was pretty freaking quick for his hand is still healing. So he couldn't do a bunch of laps,
Yeah,
and we're gonna have to make a decision on Daytona pretty soon, whether he's gonna
yeah,
be able to do 57 laps in a row or not. But I mean, he didn't lose any speed at all taking that break.
yeah,
He was within. I think he finished on the same rubber. He finished within 0.3 of Jake, I do believe.
yeah. He did.
Pretty good for
Yeah,
taking 6 months off.
yeah. He was. Like I think I told you in the car, we were rolling around, and he was visibly nervous, and
Oh yeah.
I'd never seen him nervous like that. But then he spent a day riding. The next day, I talked to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know where I'm at now. We're good."
Well, I think he was concerned about how slow he'd be. I mean, I watched part of the interview with those dummies, and he was saying, "Well, if I'm 3 seconds off, then I'll know that I'm going to get there eventually." I'm like, 3 seconds?
3 seconds off.
Are you kidding me? Now he's with
Wow.
0.3 off. It's more like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we didn't put any pressure on him.
Yeah.
I just said, just go ride the motorcycle, just have some fun. We're going to throw some tires at it, ride as long as you can, which wasn't a lot. But I mean, he was able to do the lap times without a doubt.
He told me he wasn't even concerned with lap times at all. He's like, dude, I just want to see if I remember how to ride a motorcycle. Like it was
And
like
we didn't
that.
put any lap time pressure on him. We didn't. I mean, other than he knew what his lap times were. I'm sure he chats with Jake in the truck.
Yeah.
And so he knew where Jake was at.
Right.
And one time we switched motorcycles too, and I think Jake liked Cameron's bike just a tick better on acceleration.
Well, it's because
And
the
we do
grips
that. We do that
were
well.
thinner, right?
What's that?
The grips were thicker or something, right? Or
No,
oh wait, no, this isn't that team.
no,
No,
this is another guy.
something about the seat height or something, right? He liked the seat.
No, yeah, you know what? He had the bike went to a show and it was gone. Jake's bike for like 2 months. So they went to Wall of Champions in Georgia. Then it went to the LA show, and we were trying to put on the best bodywork we had to make it all shiny and bitchin'. And there was a spare seat that Lee had made up for Hayes. It was clean and brand new. We put that on, but we brain farted, get ready to go. We didn't take that seat off. Put Jake's seat on. Had just an extra little 8 millimeters of pad underneath it because Hayes likes to be pushed forward. And Jake hated that seat. But he didn't realize why he hated it until he rode. Hate may be a strong word. He never says hate. He said, I like that seat better.
Right.
Yeah, he liked Cameron's seat better, which is the exact same seat he was using before.
Right. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
amazing how a guy that level, a little 8 millimeter pad can make all the difference,
Right.
Yeah, his lap times were still fast. He just wasn't comfortable on it.
Yeah. Crazy fast, faster than anybody's ever gone at Podium Club before, and he doesn't like his seat. And yeah.
Well, Cameron was still over a second. I mean, he was a second under the track record as well, but it wasn't on special tires. We used the R8. That's what we did his fastest lap on.
Oh wow.
The hardest tire Dunlop makes. So it's a good track. Really nice track.
So there's somebody was asking. I'll have to look. I'll have to find it. But somebody asked what we thought of Podium Club as far as the layout. Is it questioning whether or not it's a good track for testing?
I think that we'll use Buttonwillow and Podium Club because before we used to say Buttonwillow is really great for testing because it's a low grip, bumpy track, and it has a lot of features that are similar to the rest of the tracks we go to. But now, with Laguna being repaved, Road America being repaved, a number of tracks being repaved, we needed more time with the hard tires. So the hard tires kind of caught us out at a couple of those racetracks because bikes they were always set up for high acceleration, low grip. So we produce grip, we spin the rear tire, all that. When we got to high grip tracks, our bikes were now pushing the front tire. Because they had so much grip. We couldn't turn the bike with the rear and do all that stuff like the Laguna. So we had to reinvent the motorcycle mid-race, which we hate doing, but it is what you do, And so I think this track offers us a little closer to what Mid-Ohio, Road America and Laguna Seca, a couple others that they've repaved. They're probably going to repave. So I think 5 of the 9 racetracks are going to be pretty fresh asphalt. So I think this track is good for that. It did have a number of different things, and it had a pretty decent straightaway too. I think we got to 6th gear, and the gearing was closer to Laguna, pretty short. So 1st through 6th, we run 1st through 6th. I think we got to 295 kilometers an hour, something like 186 or something like that.
186 mile an hour down this straight here into this little turn right here.
Yeah, to a 1st gear corner. And if you go through the whole racetrack, if you look at your shirt there, you go first, second, third through the S's, and then you kind of upshift a little bit. And you're trying to fight wheelies, engine braking, rear braking.
You go down to first, like down this bottom place too, right?
Yeah, first there. The next corner's first, I think, and the right-hander's first. And I think you roll through second on the right-hander, go on the front straight, and then you back to first again. So it definitely puts a workout in the bike. It's not like Chuckwalla where it's a fun track, cool to ride and have a good time at, but it doesn't work the motorcycle or the rider. It's basically a 2-gear racetrack. You get rolling, maybe a speed track. That's about it. But you're not doing the hard braking and 1st gear back shifts and trying to work on your engine braking and anti-wheelie and all that stuff.
Right.
So I think it's a pretty good track for that, and we get to use the hard tires, so that's a bonus, and it's not far from us.
Right.
6 hours away, so 7 hours away, and Buttonwell is 3 hours away. So now we have a couple good tracks we can go and play on, and the riders liked it, which was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple other questions coming in too. A lot of questions about the news of JD getting a BMW ride.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen a while ago, but
yeah,
I had to announce. I kept asking when the hell are they going to announce this thing?
Right.
And,
usually they wait till like right before the season starts.
Well, if you remember, he rode at Homestead. Was it Homestead down there?
I think so.
Yeah, he went and did like a little test ride, and I kept telling some of the other teams I was actually trying to push Westby to take JD. Because I thought he did a really good job on our bike. So we'll have to race against him next year. And I kind of teased him a bit. I think he wanted the number graphic that was on our bike. We did a different style number for him, that 95, a little closer to the other numbers we're running. So we had Owen, our graphics guy, do it up. And he wanted it. I'm like, nah, it's for sale. That kind of thing.
You could keep running your old dirt track number on the BMW.
Yeah. I told him we still don't have a title sponsor for the team, so I'm going to have to sell you the number.
There you go.
I can afford a rear tire for you. We kind of joked around a little bit.
Right.
I shot him the graphic, but yeah, he'll be running that number 95.
Yeah.
That's cool. He's going to change up a bit. I think he's going to add pink, typical JD.
And then SDK is riding that other BMW.
Yeah, there's quite a few BMWs in there. We'll have our hands full, but hey, I think we'll rise to the occasion. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah. Okay.
The other guy too, I can't remember his name. Cameron something or another. He's riding one too.
Yeah, Cameron something or other.
Yeah, I can't remember his last name. What the hell?
Burr.
Yeah, some kind of like French name.
Burr.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he's going to be fast, man.
He's always fast, isn't he?
Second year on the bike, he's going to be really fast, hard to beat. I don't know what the HSBK guys are doing, or the Warhorse, or whatever you want to call that team. So many letters in that team. But I heard they might have a 2-rider team, which is great.
Yeah, I've heard Laura Baz.
Got 2 riders too, right?
What'd you say?
SDK's team has 2 riders, whatever that team is.
Yeah, it's I think the other rider is the owner of the team, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah. I had that guy on. I had the guy on the show, but he wouldn't tell me on the show that it was a SDK rider.
Oh,
because it hadn't been.
Tell you his name?
No, it's what's his Arango?
Oh, okay, yeah, Florida guy, right?
Yeah, Miami.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, good on them. I mean, I saw their setup when they were at COTA last year, and I was like, man, this must be some rich, local CMRA dude, because I'd never seen those guys before. And
okay, shut up and answer some questions.
Yeah. Anyway,
you tell me to shut up and answer questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, the no agenda.
That's right.
So Trevor, that weird Honda guy, Watson.
Here's my notes for the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine too. Look at that. Empty napkin. No, but Trevor is saying that the story has been told before, about the preseason Dunlops being awesome. And then the actual Motor America tires are shit and not the same as preseason. Is that like a normal story is that like a movie you guys seen before?
Something changed without a doubt between the tires we tried in the preseason and last year.
Right.
And I talked to Tony a bit about it, but I don't want to get into all the details. But for sure, something changed between what we did in testing and what ended up getting produced.
Okay.
And they may, but it's the same for everyone. So whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah, it did take away some of our advantage because the tire didn't produce the grip in the opening laps.
Yeah.
The previous tires did, but it did last longer.
Right.
So it made the racing probably a bit better because Jake couldn't do the big checkout in the beginning. He had to wait a few laps, and that allowed other guys to catch up, or be right there in the opening laps and get in his draft and race with them instead of doing I'm 4 seconds ahead in the first 2 laps and I'm going to just mind the gap. So I think it made racing a little more interesting, and it's going to make us work a little harder, but it's the same for everyone. And I think the front tire was a plus because even against the Japanese tires, it was better. It's just that the compounds we knew didn't work out to be the same feeling as the compounds we knew before. Like a 129 compound was not like an R3, even though it has the 129 top on it. So we end up using a different tire instead of the R3. We had to jump past the R3 a lot of times, R0 or R5.
Right.
And sometimes R7. But the R3 became not the go-to tire like was the previous year, which was 129. Yeah, so we had to change kind of some of the way we thought about the rubber, pressures and different things. But yeah, it wasn't the same as testing. But we didn't test anything really new that they're going to bring out other than that 118 tire, which I hope they bring that up because I think it's pretty cool.
That could be the new Q tire, kind of.
No, it was a race tire. I mean, that thing did.
No, but I'm saying you guys could use it in Q. I mean, it was fast.
Oh yeah, it would beat up on any Q they've given us net so far. Like the R0, yeah, kill it, murder it.
Really?
But I don't know if it's going to perform the same at Buttonwillow when we get to a low grip track. It maybe no better, but I think it will be. I think it will be.
Yeah. So Joseph Bittner says Alex Arango. Yeah, I said Arango. I just couldn't remember if it was Alex or, I don't know.
You got a shit memory.
Yeah, smashed my head a bunch. I got a bunch of crashed helmets back there. Like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Bearded Jixer. Now, I'm just gonna say this now. You see the comments up. Like, it's not about the fuel controversy or anything, but like, have we done any testing with the new fuel that was supposed to come?
I have 355s coming in the shop, but they won't be here till February.
Okay.
I mean, middle of February. So we've been running the old gas just to get through it, putting in the generators and stuff because we had a bunch of it in the shop. And we do have a little bit. So we might bring the R6 out and try to get some time on that.
Okay.
Because we finally got one of the GYTR kit heads that they're using, new ones that they manufacture. They're really strictly for the race teams. I think Tom's bringing in a handful of them.
Okay.
Some teams will have, but I saw some impressive stuff with it.
Yeah.
Dyno numbers. I don't know if it'll be the same as what I saw, from the Europeans, but we're gonna give that a go and see how the fuel does with that, because that seems to be the limiting factor with our engines anyway, and in the U.S. altogether. You can't lean on them as hard but we had that conversation with the VP guys quite often, and so I think they made a step forward with a new fuel, but we don't know yet. We really get a chance to hammer on the dyno.
That makes sense. Yeah. And then, there's the question about the 200. You mentioned it earlier. We don't know yet, basically, right?
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know we're moving forward, like we're gonna do it, but like,
yeah, we'll push forward, build bike and do all that stuff. And we have the bike from last year. We sold one of the bikes, but we have another bike too. But we'll build at least one to go ride, do some laps on, and see how it goes.
So 848 Evo has a funny question: which grips are faster, the thick ones or the thin ones?
Whichever ones the riders prefer.
I love your Beavis and Butthead laughed at that. Jesus.
Yeah, our guys don't really concern themselves with the grips. I think they have more to worry about.
Okay.
Like both guys use the same grips. They're Renthal mediums or whatever they are, and that's what they use. They're probably fairly skinny. They got little curls on them. So it's not something we concern ourselves about. Some riders are very, very particular. Our guys aren't.
Right.
What are you doing?
Oh, nothing.
All of a sudden, you got graphics popping up with some stuff.
I
Is
was
that like some subliminal suggestions there, or what?
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy that was talking about your opinion on the homeowners group that's trying to get Laguna Seca permanently shut down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Permanently shut down, huh?
that's the rumor. That's the
I
rumor.
think we do contracts with all our mechanics, and Yamaha does a contract with the riders, but a lot of times you can't really go after the contract because the guys have no assets or whatever, so you kind of let it go if someone screws you. But for the homeowners, maybe they should hire my attorney, Smith and Wesson.
Oh,
LLP. Yeah.
okay.
I think Laguna should hire those guys.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I do have somewhat of a shirt design coming. Let's see if I could pull it up in here. Let's see if I pull it up in the browser.
So the track's been there since Fort Ord. I think the Corps of Engineers built that park, that track.
Right.
Army Corps of Engineers. They built the golf course there too. So these guys moved close to the racetrack. And I mean, I know it's on kind of premium area now.
Right.
Now they cut down the track because of what? Too much traffic? Everything?
I mean, something. There's always something to whine about, right?
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate problem with that. But yeah, I've got basically a shirt design that kind of just says "fuck the Highway 68 Coalition."
I'll buy one.
I mean, I don't know if anybody wants that. Comment, see if you guys would buy something like that.
I think eventually, I mean, a lot of these tracks are probably that are in those kinds of high dollar residential areas. They're eventually going to go away.
Yeah,
and we'll all be racing the desert or out in the woods somewhere.
Right.
Like,
well, it's it's happening all over. That there's that guy on that YouTube guy, Cletus McFarland. He's got some kind of fun freedom factory thing, and there's a housing development and he's obviously worried because every time their neighbors happen to racetracks, the racetracks close, right? And it's just I guess what, it's this show, so I'll just say it. It's like, what? Only a cunt would do that. Buy a house next to a racetrack and then complain about the noise from the racetrack. Like, what kind of person does that? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I think a whole bunch of motorheads should just go and do burnouts in the dudes' driveways.
Maybe the HOA should have asked, "Are you into racing?" before they sold it.
Right.
Well, get a house, but I mean, it's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, because Laguna Seca has been there since ever.
Yeah.
50s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway. Oh, here's one. Bearded Jixer says, have you heard any news on where Skoltz is going?
No, I haven't heard a thing.
Yeah.
I heard a little bit about possibly Scheibe's bike.
Yeah.
Possibly, or Bagger and Scheibe's bike. I think a lot of guys who do the rotating, are there for a bit and they're out of a job, they'll hop on a Bagger because it pays.
Right. Right.
So a lot of older Superbike guys, a lot of guys that don't have a job at the moment will hop on one to get some dough, try to keep relevant. I don't know.
I heard Honda too, right? Like I heard of maybe a Honda thing. And I think that speculation was because he's available and Honda came out with like a massive amount of contingency money.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping someone would pick up the Honda program and do a Superbike deal.
Yeah.
I heard Honda was open to it. They never approached us about it. Our Yamaha contract ended in December, but luckily they haven't announced it yet, but I'm sure they will. What our arrangement is
right
going forward. But you know, I'm super happy with the Yamaha and the
Yeah.
range that we have, and the team and everybody on it, and the motorcycles, and you know, our relationship with Yamaha Racing and the guys in Europe. I mean, everything's freaking awesome. So I wouldn't want to change, but if it was the end of my relationship, I would probably jump on that Honda deal.
Wow. I mean, you know, there's a buy a jet from Steve Main. He's, you know, he's saying that the 24 season, Superbike's looking pretty stacked, Super Sports looking stacked, Baggers are stacked. I mean, it sounds like the year is already shaping up to be badass.
I think so. I think Motor America is. I just hope they don't lose their mind and start thinking the DMG era was good.
Right.
You know, because every now and then they start talking about, which is silly as hell, and you're probably your viewers should voice their opinion. But
All 7 of them.
yeah, all 7 of them. Well, we went from 3.5 to 7, which is great.
Yeah.
And
I
but
think there's
you know, all 7 of
4,800
them
right now.
write Motor America and say making super sport the premier class is just freaking stupid.
Right.
You know, like that's an also ran class. So I've said it before. Out of all the years that we've been racing, you know, we've had Superbikes. You know, there's been Superbikes, and all these other classes have come and gone. You know, super sports
Yeah.
morphed every which way to try to make it more appealing.
Right.
And DMG tried to come in and make super sport the premier class. That never worked.
Right.
Everyone tuned out. You know, we had Twins class, we had Pro Thunder, we had, I mean, XRs, we had everything you can imagine.
We had a couple of different
Super
iterations of
motard.
XRs.
What's
right?
that?
We had a couple of different iterations of the XRs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they had the 883 class too before that.
Yeah, it was always like, you know, a dozen guys or something lining up, if that.
Right.
And it was like a bad club day at Chuck Wallet where you had like 2 rows of guys, 6 guys, you know.
Yeah.
But here it's not that way anymore. Here's pretty damn stacked there.
Dude, it is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like a miniature national every weekend, apparently.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when I was there was like nowhere to park. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But eventually, I think all things morph. You know, I mean, the latest thing is electric, this and that. So I can see them trying to get to some type of hybrid electric or something, making that more popular. I just don't know how all these tracks are going to charge all these vehicles.
So there's some commentary about you selling the rig to Altus.
Oh yeah, okay. What's the commentary?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're like, well, Bearded Jixer says, plus you have all that money from selling your second hauler to Altus. And then the Steve Main guy says, look for his logo on the Altus rig. So
we spent more on a CNC than what the rig was sold for.
Right. And you know what? I'll tell you what, George from Altus was super happy with it.
Yeah, I just told him make sure. I mean, I haven't been anything but stepped inside of it for 3 years. You know, like walked in and go, hey, is Chuck here? So I told him, I said, make sure you go from front to back on that thing, because I wasn't in charge of the maintenance. You know, Westby guys had it for 3 years.
Right.
And so I can't say, oh man, the thing's awesome. I said, just look at it from front to back. You know, service the generator, and do all the things you would when you buy a used vehicle.
Right.
Take it to your shop and do all the oil changes on it. Check all the wheel bearings. Check the brake pads. You know, check all the functioning of everything, and make sure it's good before you start committing to driving that thing cross country.
Right.
That stuff's like flying an airplane. You have to check them out all the time because stuff goes wrong all the time. So I told George that, so hopefully he takes that to heart. And I think
it sounds like he will.
Yeah, I think he will. He will. You know, those things you got to take care of. And when we had it, we took care of it like it was a Ferrari. You know, everything was always looked at.
Right. Right.
Some people just don't do the same amount of care for equipment. So I told him, make sure that you check it all out.
You know what? Sean Summers just sent me a message privately because he doesn't want to comment in public for whatever reason. But
there's like a million comments. I can't read them all.
I know. He was up. It was about the Rahal thing. Like,
oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Rahal thing joining Supersport?
Well, we're supporting that team.
Oh, so really?
We haven't announced anything, or we're not. Kind of like a deal between Ben Spies and ourselves, because I'm a fan of Ben's.
And, he did ride for your team.
Yeah, he was on our team for a year, and I think it was in his learning years. He was just a kid.
Yeah.
And it's funny at the time, he was kind of like a little chubby kid, didn't know about working out, things like that. Then once he hopped on Yosh, he got super serious, But he was
Yeah.
on our team. He was a little bit sickly. He was sick a couple times. He couldn't ride the bike, but
Oh
he
wow.
was so talented. I mean, it was an amazing amount of talent. So I was really happy to see him go to World Superbike
Yeah.
and win that championship straight away. I mean, I remember seeing him in Brno, and Ben's kind of a gearhead. So I
Oh
remember went
dude.
over to when I was in Brno, watching him ride. Just kind of in the area, so I stopped in, said hi to him, and all he could talk about was the aluminum and the frame and how they've gusseted the steering head and all these different things. So he's really into it. So I think he'll have a good time with it. It's going to be tough on him, and James Compton is kind of like the team. I don't know what you call him, team manager, I guess. He's building the bikes, and he's
Right.
got, and he's a nice guy too. And I wish that team really good luck. And they got some talented riders, and should be fun. Yeah, we're just supporting them with some of our product, and it's pretty cool.
So there's going to be, I guess, attack rear sets on the.
Yeah. We designed some new stuff for them, and yeah, it's a lot easier to install than the Ducati stuff. Holy crap, that bike hard to work on.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. If I had to race a Ducati, I would completely redesign the whole motorcycle. It's impossible to work on.
Oh wow.
If you fall down, it's going to take an hour to change the rear sets. I mean,
Oh dude, that
the,
doesn't
the
sound
the
fun.
rear brake. I mean, the right side where the brake is. I don't know how they do a fast assembly at the factory. They must do it with the swing arm off,
Oh
and the
wow.
engine out. Like they probably put that stuff on the chassis first because you need some flexi tools and all kinds of stuff to take the bolts out.
Really?
Yeah, it's awful. It's
Oh
an
man.
awful motorcycle to work on.
So are those? I guess Are you gonna sell those rear sets as well?
Yeah. We
Oh
just
cool.
we just sent them the first prototypes. Those guys are going to go out and test here pretty soon.
Okay.
They're a little behind. I guess they're waiting for some parts because I mean, Compton's like, wow, this is
It's racing.
oh man, this is going to be a lot of work, man. Building a whole new team, and same with Compton's. Like, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And Compton's been around. He's just been out of it for a little bit. But he was with Jordan. I think he worked with Yosh, I believe. I don't remember his whole history, but he's been around the paddock for a bit. So those guys
Right.
know what to do. And obviously, Ben's quite the talent, and he'll be able to give the riders the proper advice, about how to ride motorcycles.
They have like the Junior Cup, dude. I think they have everything but a bagger. I don't think they have a bagger. Correct me if I'm
Well,
wrong in the
isn't
comments.
Altus kind of like that too? Because
Not anymore, dude. They're
they
solid
used to
super
have
sport.
their foot and everything.
Yeah, they had a Junior Cup and a Twins Cup guy and stock 1,000 basically, right?
Yeah.
But this guy's got legit like Junior Cup, Twins, stock 1,000, Superbike, Super Sport, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. The only thing I concern myself with is burnout
Yeah.
and focus, because you could do everything badly or you could do a couple things good,
Right.
so that's the only thing I would ever guess. It's like, wow, if you can pull that off, then great, better man than me. But focus a lot of times is gets you a better result.
Yeah. Steve Main is saying Altus again, like I was saying, George is focused on just doing super sport. Like their guys are 100% super sport.
They have 3 riders coming.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should say. I don't know if I should say. I don't think they've announced it yet, right?
No, he said it was like Jake Lewis
Yeah.
and I forget who else, but
Yeah. A couple
yeah,
other guys.
obviously his own son, Jarrett.
That's
Besani.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
and
got
then
Jake Lewis's son and then another person. I can't remember who.
I think a kid, right?
Yeah.
I forget.
Jake should do well on that team.
Oh, he should
We
absolutely.
come out and we're going to be at Podium Club again on 6th and 7th.
Okay.
Well, you're going to be there too, so it's not like news to you.
Yeah, fully aware.
Okay, am I supposed to go? I forgot.
I'm like, oh yeah, you're buying me dinner, right? Like that's great. That's sweet. Appreciate it.
Or Greg normally comes and buys dinner. We ducked out the last time.
Well, because he's staying at the fancy golf resort. Remember?
Was he?
Yeah.
I think he was pretty tired.
He was, but he also stays at the golf resort. So
Greg's a Capit guy who sells those boxes for $1,500 with warmers.
Yeah, the Tyrarium. You just gotta.
You can message Dustin for his home personal number.
Yeah, don't message me for that shit, dude. No, it's you just hit up at Attack Yamaha for that on Instagram. There you go.
Dude, the tire thing worked out really good. I'm really happy with the way that worked out. The 220 warmers. I mean, we could cook 16 tires at once and not have a circuit breaker fail.
Yeah, Torrin Collins is the third kid on the Altus team.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm terrible with names too, man.
Yeah, me too. He's a good kid though. I've seen him around.
Yeah. So they'll be out with us on the 6th and 7th at
Yeah.
Podium Club again. And I don't know if I need to bring my own personal weapons and put some rounds down range or just share theirs or what. I probably won't have time again to do anything.
Yeah, we're probably gonna scumbag you into coming out anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I got bikes to worry about.
You could delegate that shit. Big Bird will get in there.
And Don will go off on the on a tangent somewhere and come back and the whole bike's like completely different than I saw.
So you got to crack the whip a little bit every now
and then. I got to make sure I keep those Canadians in check. You never know when they're going to take off to the tundra.
Oh man, that's so funny. All right, well, you know what? We've got some squiggly lines. You want to look at that a little bit?
What do you want to see?
Well, I know you have it up here. I guess I could pull it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there.
But you know what? The biggest thing I want to see, because we were talking about it quite a bit, is Jake's brake pressure going into turn 1.
Okay, yeah. So let me turn off some stuff. All right, there you are.
Yeah, let me share this. And you know what? I'll just make the screen real big so everybody can see that instead of our stupid faces.
Yeah, this platform's way better, man. Your last platform really sucked.
You know what, man? Like, it's funny you say that, dude. Saying that the Pin the Gas podcast guy is gonna shit when he hears that.
The who?
There's another podcast dude that's been kind of scumbagging me to go to this platform for a little bit.
Well, it's better. The other one, you couldn't even bring up the shared screen because it would be, our heads would be half the screen.
Right.
Can you turn our heads off? No. It's not even these here. Our heads, they want to see the squiggly lines. What's wrong with you?
Right. Well, I hope everybody can see this okay. It looks pretty cool on YouTube for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks all right. And I can move the stuff around and it works. And
oh, look, you can see look at that. Everything works.
Yeah, so what do you want to see? I can show it to you.
Let's the brake pressure for going into turn 1, like what kind of force was he putting in? And mind you, this is with your fancy badass Brembo calipers. What do you call those things?
They're World Superbike calipers, but they're also they have a brake boost. They have a booster ramp on them.
Okay.
So it's the latest things that Brembo makes, and they finally. I've been bugging Brembo forever. When we were over at Portimao, I said, "Come on, man, sell us those calipers. Why are you guys being mean to the Americans? And they're on the list. They just wouldn't sell them. And finally, they came out and said, "All right, we'll sell you the calipers." And anybody could get them. This Racing Motor America Superbike, but they're super cool and they grab really hard. So what happens is when you pull the lever, the top of the pad ramps into the rotor, so you get a little bit of a power boost. It's almost like having power brakes. But even with that, immediately the guys drop their pressures. But we've been working on the way the bike stops, and so we can zoom up on this area here. You can see this is the brake pressure, 12.2 bar with a booster, which is okay.
Wow,
it's pretty.
So good. That's what 17 bar on the other one, right?
Something like that, yeah. You had to really squeeze the other one to get the same amount of pressure at the pad.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then he just fades off in there. It's like boom, boom, boom. These are downshifts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that Sylvain Gintley also talks about how the downshift pattern will help with your engine braking performance.
Yeah,
so people should watch that, riders especially. Maybe
dude, Jake's back shifts are always really close together.
Well, that was one of the things we worked on immediately.
Yeah,
we went out to test with the first time with Jake in 2020. He came by at Buttonwillow going down the front straightaway and went in the corner. He's like, boom, 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 boom. I said, what are you doing? What is that? I said, you need to listen to the camera. The camera would go in the corner, bang, bang, bang. And so now Jake's boom, boom, boom all the way, trying to keep the revs up. And that gives you a little better, more immediate engine brake control. So it makes your engine braking more effective. And so what this is here, you can see this is the on this graph here. Can we see where the cursor is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'd be the front wheel. That's GPS speed actually, but where's the front wheel? Front wheel. It's the rear wheel. There's the front. Slowing down. Rear wheel. So this little dip in here is
Yeah.
a separation between front and rear brake. I mean, front and rear slip. And you can
Oh,
see over here when he starts to bend it in, he's got quite a bit of slip going in the corner, and that helps him turn. And then he gets, then the wheels come in line, and he goes to the apex. So you get, that's a first gear corner. It's only 55 kilometers an hour. That's slow.
yeah.
That's a slow corner. You know, that's parked.
Yeah,
So
and I actually went down there and I watched him, and
yeah.
Jake's been working on the brake thing ever since that. It seems like ever since that experience at Portimao, that really really made Jake kind of refocus or focus more on his entry braking, right?
Well, it wasn't just him. It was our setup.
Oh, okay.
You know,
So the whole
so
team.
yeah. So we had to refocus. I mean, John got, shocked into understanding basically how hard those guys brake and
Right.
how much we needed to work on our setup for that.
Okay.
Because Jake was winning everything, right? I mean, he was setting all the track records. He had the most amount of wins in a season. He's got the record for that, right?
Yeah.
And so, what are you going to improve, right? Until you get to the world level, you're like, oh crap, we suck in this area.
Right.
And we did. We sucked really badly in the braking performance. And so this is why we've been working on that. And I think Jake's come a long way since Portimao. If we ever went back again, I think he would perform much, much stronger than he did before. And that was one of the areas where it just the bike wouldn't let him squeeze the lever that hard. And we tried to do it with rear engine braking and things like that. It just wasn't good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I went down to turn 1 down there, and I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Jake with the rear wheel in the air as much as I did during that test. I mean, I could put the screen back up and see if we could see that, but I mean, having the rear wheel in the air, do you see that on the data? Like what does that do to the data?
I could show you in suspension. Basically, the rear goes flat. The rear stroke. So let's see if we can find where Marshall hit the suspension screen here.
Because man, it was crazy looking. I was trying to zoom in. I even stood in different spots with the GoPro, and the naked eye you could see it, but the GoPro, because it's wide angle or whatever, it looked far. I tried it with my phone even, but man, he's doing things.
So here we go. We'll zoom out so we know what we're looking at. So this is entry into 1.
Okay.
Right, it's first gear corner. So he puts the thing almost at the bump stop. That little line right there.
Yeah, that's the bump stop.
Bump stop. Yeah, so about 126 millimeters or so, and then you get into the rubber. And so it gets in there. The thing's always smashed flat, and then here's the rear tire off the ground, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why you see a flat line. That means it's completely topped out. It's up against the top out spring, and then it settles in right about here. So almost in the corner. So this is why using a rear brake with your foot in this area does absolutely nothing.
Aha.
Well, there's no traction.
Yeah. Well,
no tire. I mean, the tire's off the ground, or it's barely sliding on the ground. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you can see it here. These two graphs here. This is the rear wheel speed, and he's making all the downshifts with this graph here. So the rear wheel speed is slower than the front brake. But look at the front compared to the GPS. I mean, he's actually reducing. The front speed is reducing more than the GPS is. The GPS lags a little bit, but what does that tell me? It tells me that he's actually on the verge of locking the front wheel too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the front end was totally smashed, and the rear wheel's in the air, and he was just like, bing, 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 bing. I was like, God damn. I mean, it.
Yeah, and then it settles into the rear wheel here, and then this is where you see the graph go up. That's when the rear wheel's starting to plant. And this is the place right here that you can actually use a little bit of rear brake to help you turn the bike, right in that area there.
Okay.
When the rear tire touches down. This is why a finger brake is so important, because you can actually apply a little bit of rear brake in that area.
And if you look at that area, that looks like that graph above that one where your cursor is, the graph above that, that's his front brake, right?
So no, that's the front suspension travel.
That's the front suspension travel.
So it's all traveling here down. So the front end is down in this area, and then the front starts to recover.
But then he goes back down again, right?
Yeah, it's still 100 millimeters.
Right. Yeah.
It's still
but it does slightly raise up as the arc of the other graph goes up too.
And so this is what you see in the MotoGP bikes. Their front end stays down all the way to the apex, and then they start releasing the brake, and then the front comes up and transfers the rear.
Ah, okay.
So
That
in
makes
this
sense.
area, this transition point is when the MotoGP guys start to apply a little bit of rear brake to get the bike to hook the corner, take some of
Okay.
the load off the front, because this is the place where you would lose grip on the front and crash. So
Wow.
they use a little bit of rear brake to take some of the load off the front tire, give the front tire a chance to turn the corner, and help it turn the corner by putting a little bit of the speed reduction into the rear tire. So taking some of the friction capability, adding it to the rear tire,
Yeah.
and reducing some of the force on the front tire, and then you get to the apex and you accelerate away.
Wow, man. That's
And they do
crazy.
that every corner, right? I mean, this is what they do. So anytime you see the front like completely down and flat like this,
Yeah.
that means that he's able to level. He's able to enter the corner, with the front totally compressed, and then accelerate off the corner.
Yeah,
and
he also still does that. He still does that like snap the bike upright thing too. At the corner exit.
Yep.
Man, it's
Yeah,
just
he
like
does that. That's his style, basically. You don't see as much of that in World Superbike. I think Batista does it a little bit more than Top Rack does.
right.
Some guys like to leave it on the side of the tire. Depends what kind of tire you have too. But
Right.
Jake searches for grip by moving the bike around to see where it's getting the most amount of grip. But
Right.
it does save the edge of the tire, at least with our Dunlops, and that allows you to have a little more left at the end of the race.
Wow, man. That's some crazy stuff to
We
look
can look
at.
at this crap for hours. You
Oh,
want to see what
dude.
the throttle does?
The what?
TRM?
See what the what does?
The TRM, the throttle. You said
Yeah,
you
Here, let me.
the popping and banging.
Yeah.
So let's go to back to the rider screen.
Yeah, and I'll go full screen on this too. This new platform, I'm digging it, dude.
It's better on my end, without a doubt.
Yeah, way better. Yeah, let's take a look at the popping and banging thing on the straight, because like it sounded like it was just continuous down the straight.
Smooth,
It didn't
right?
sound like it sounded smooth. It didn't sound like the old cracking and popping thing that we used to hear.
Yeah, so you can see what the ECU does. This is Jake's, the purplish color, whatever they call that thing. Fuchsia,
Puce.
Oh, whatever. It's some kind of purplish looking pink
I'm
thing.
saying that because I'm colorblind. I'm just making shit up.
Okay, yeah. And anyway, so the line that looks like white to you or black or whatever the heck you're looking at. Gray, different shades of gray. This one here that goes straight, that's his wrist.
Okay.
This other one's a throttle. The ECU working the throttle to find grip.
Okay.
You see all that stuff?
Yeah.
That's the ECU trying to find grip. And on top of that, and see where these little guys here, can you see this area here?
Yeah.
That's the front floating. And it floats there, and it floats there, and it floats there, and it floats there. And as the front's floating, you can overlap it. You see the throttle does its thing and shuts down.
Okay.
If you had a rider try to do that, they would be either late with the throttle, or these chops would be much bigger.
Huh.
And if they use the rear brake, you'd have this big force right here, and the bike would take that much longer to start accelerating again.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
like I say, if the guys haven't used the rear brake in areas where it doesn't make sense, then their data guy sucks. That's all there is to it.
Wow, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Our data guy's really good.
Their data guy is.
No, luckily our data guy's really good.
Yeah, you mean like you and Marshall?
You know what? Marshall does such a good job, I barely even look at the damn computer anymore.
That's BS.
No, only when we get stuck on something, I'll come in and interject.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what else you got? What else you got new in the works for this season?
Stuff. I've got this new swing arm.
Chunk O metal.
Only part of it, yeah. It started off with a big piece of billet, but then it becomes a swing arm. This is the.
I thought you were making me like a parts tray for
Yeah, we can use it for
throw your axle in there.
You put some strings on it. You can use it for a guitar, I think.
Oh, dude, totally.
Yeah. So
throw some humbuckers on there, dude.
Yeah, we did try a little bit of something. A couple different flex swing arms that Jake seemed to like one a little bit better than the other. There isn't a shitload of time in there, but there's a little bit, maybe. So
Okay.
we're going to do that a little bit. Maybe not this test, but maybe a test or two down the road. Try to introduce that, and then we got some different engine configurations we're going to test too. And so there's a bunch of stuff. We have a new frame geometry we're going to do. We're taking the rule book and going to the full extent on the rules with the steering head. So they say you can move the bearings plus or minus 6 millimeters, and we didn't have that in the R1 chassis space-wise. And but they do allow us to bore it as an oval. So we're making some, and we can weld on it too. So we're going to do a little bit of steering head mods with our new CNC that we just purchased, and then we're going to have a little more range for the front end. So trying to head a little bit more towards MotoGP as far as the settings go. Yeah, okay. I mean, the Beamer, the Ducati is super fast, so we're going to have to do it all on the brakes and acceleration, and let those guys try to use that whole straightaway to catch us.
Make them use the whole straightaway to catch.
Yes, exactly.
Take the long way round.
Yeah, right? Yeah. There's a few things we're working on. Just keep going down that list. Get as much done as we can. Some new rider positioning too that I think will help us.
Rider positioning. Oh, yeah. You're changing the fuel tank somehow? Is that right?
Yeah, we're changing the seat height a little bit, moving the pegs around, stuff like that. Stuff that we've been wanting to do since middle of last season. So we're kind of going to get to it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I got a couple more questions before we wrap this thing. Proto wants to know, how much stiffer do you think the new swing arm will be?
I didn't say it was going to be stiffer.
Oh, look at that.
I just said we're going to be working on the stiffness.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And then 848 Evo wants to know, how long does it take to assemble / build a swing arm?
Yeah, it's, the actual assemble / build takes about, I don't know, 3-4 hours. But the machining the parts is time consuming. It takes it usually takes us a good 4 days of machining. Every aspect of it takes almost a solid day, different setups. So yeah, probably about 4 days of making chips and a few hours of welding.
Wow. Okay. Making chips, you mean the debris that you pull out and throw into bags?
Yeah, aluminum chips, not potato chips.
Well, I mean, you guys could make chips over there. I mean, you got the oven and everything.
Mr. Boost chips. Yeah. We're not using that in the swing arm. Aluminum.
All right. Okay. And then Mike C says, are there any thoughts on the 1099 Aprilia being homologated? Nobody seems to know if it's just stock 1000 or Superbike also.
That conversation came and went, it seemed like.
Okay.
There was one team that was trying to homologate it early on for Supersport, and I don't know, Motor America booted it, didn't accept it. Something happened. I don't know where that's at lately. But it'd be cool if they got one more in the class. I think if they did, they're going to have to work on restricting it. I mean, 1100 cc's, right? What size is it again?
1099. So
yeah, 1100 cc's. That's a gigantic advantage.
Right.
So what do you do to restrict it? Is it a super stock engine, and everybody else is on Superbike spec? I mean, I don't know. You start mixing all these different sizes, and then the whole restriction game becomes a challenge.
Right. Then it's a concessions game, ultimately.
Yeah, and then it becomes the rule guys playing with your performance, which I'm not a big fan of. I just wish everybody was on the same basic rules package.
Right.
But I mean, no one in Supersport is happy with the rules package as far as what the performance they have. The Yamaha guys are like, my bike doesn't accelerate like the 750. The 50 guys are like, oh, my bike revs too low. The Ducati guys are like, oh man, everyone gets past.
Stop taking my power away.
Yeah, they keep taking my power away. I mean, it's all you hear.
Right.
And the rules guys have to deal with that all the time. It doesn't seem like any fun.
Yeah, the Superbike thing sounds way more fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
All right, man. Well, shit, I guess I'll see you in a couple weeks, right?
Hey, don't ever call me Manuel.
Manuel?
Yeah.
No, the other thing I called you earlier, I got it.
I'll catch up to you.
I'm sure you will. All right, dude. Well, I'll see you in a couple weeks, man.
What do we accomplish in this little thing? Nothing.
Just like, who the
We
fuck
just
cares?
talk a bunch of
Like,
crap.
yeah.
I tell you
You
that
know,
motor
next time we'll talk about not only what you're testing and how things went then, but we'll also talk about Daytona and whether or not we're going to do it. What do you think?
Yeah. Hopefully we can make that decision by next time.
Yeah.
It might
Hope
take
so.
all the way till Daytona before we know, huh? Hopefully
Oh
not.
shit, man. Yeah, Claudia Gutierrez says, remember to like and subscribe. I'm like, yeah, that too.
Yeah, that whatever. Nobody's liking or subscribing to me. That's all I know. It's all you.
Yeah, I gotta get you a microphone, man. I know you said you didn't want one, but we should get you one.
No, then I have to
My
make a
next
job out of
YouTube
it.
check.
No, I don't want to make a job out of this. I just pop on sometimes. That's it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, man.
All right, dude.
We'll
Well, I'm
talk to
gonna
you
end
later.
recording. Thanks a lot.
All right.